And away we go. Good start from both of the front row men, given the amount of wheel spin they've got. And it's Andrew Graham that gets into the early lead. Alistair Bapty follows him, and already they're putting a few car lengths gap between themselves. And I think it's going to be the Lotus of Craig Houston that gets past Jimmy Crowe and into third position as they head down towards McIntyre's. Yes, indeed it is. Then a bit of a squabble going on in the midfield. A non-starter, incidentally, was Andrew Kinman's TVR Vixen. He didn't make it to the grid, unfortunately, but meanwhile we've got the two V8 engine cars out front and already building a gap as they head onto the back straight, with a good opening few corners from Craig Houston. He's established himself in a relatively comfortable third place at this stage, although we've still got 12 laps to go.
A little bit of a tail slide there for Alistair Bapty in that all-action MG, and just not quite got the same traction. That Triumph is really, really well dialed in, and Andrew Graham driving it beautifully, qualified on pole by a good margin, as you said, Doc, and just got good traction as well out of, I mean, for the power and the lightness of the car, really good traction coming out of the hairpin there and pulling away from Alistair Bapty in second place right now.
Yeah, that's a very, very strong opening lap from Andrew Graham. Now, Alistair Bapty, we've got a yellow flag at turn 1. I'm trying to see where there is somebody off, but can't see what the issue is. But obviously something is down there. There's maybe a car pulled off on the right hand side of the road where we can't see it. Yeah, the yellow flag's there anyway, but they're back to, no, we've got, have we got a safety car about to come out? Yes, we've got the safety car. So somebody's gone off slightly out of our sight. We think it's John Kinman in the 63 Mini, but we're not sure where he is. Oh, I think he's on the approach to the chicane, actually. I think it might be just between Beach and the chicane.
Yeah. Thankfully I can see the roof rather than the wheels.
Yes, well, that's a good start.
It is, yes. Just tucked in behind the barrier on the right hand side as you come out through Butchers and up to the chicane. Yeah. So that neutralises everything, and that I mean, for Alistair Bapty that's good news, because Andrew Graham was just getting into a groove there and starting to pull away.
Yes, and now, you know, the restart of the race will be a rolling start behind the safety car, so Alistair Bapty is, well, it's not his first rodeo, so he knows exactly how to take advantage of that. Craig Houston's the one that'll feel a little bit disappointed, because although it lets him catch up with the back of Andrew Bapty's car, it's also allowing Jimmy Crowe to get back onto the tail of his car. So, but there'll be a lap or two behind the safety car, I'd imagine. The coverage Discovery's already down there getting the Mini onto the end of the tow rope.
We should have some old Crow medicine show, actually, shouldn't we?
Well, see if we can find that. Yes.
Yeah. Not that Jimmy Crow's old, but his car is. That's the whole point of this class, of course. And we do have one lone Fiesta XR2. You were telling us earlier on, Doc, this is your 29th season here. You've sort of seen the rise and fall of XR2 racing.
Well, yes,
over the years.
First year I was commentating was '96. It was the first year of the XR2 Championship, and there's still XR2s racing now, 29 seasons later.
And you're still commentating.
And I'm still commentating, but there's one XR2 left.
And there's one of you left.
There's one of you left.
I think we might just have it. I think we might just have it, just about.
Yes.
But they're in behind the Honda Civic Type R pace car. It's been a bit busier today than it was yesterday. Understandable with the conditions. It's been a little bit more tricky today.
Yes. So yes, Alan Barron, our Chief Marshal, driving the safety car, and what he's doing, he's going very, very slowly. But the reason for that is he's trying to minimise the number of race laps lost. So we get 3 laps under the safety car before we start discounting racing laps. So Alan tries to allow enough time for all the marshals and recovery teams to do their work in the 3 laps behind the safety car. So that explains the funereal pace. But the recovery teams have done their work here. We've got the Mini safely off track behind the marshal's post at the chicane. So safety car lights are already out by the looks of it. It's already sprinted off. Yes, so we've had only the merest interruption from the safety car, and we'll be racing again in just a moment. So Andrew Graham, it is that's going to control the pace from Alistair Bapty, Craig Houston and Jimmy Crowe in the red Scimitar. And then we've got that wonderful number 27 Ferrari, driven by the man with the greatest ever racing driver name, Mario Ferrari.
Mario Ferrari, yeah, very, very good. No relation.
No relation to Andretti or Enzo.
No. Up they go then towards the green flag to restart the race then, and Andrew Graham gets a good getaway, as does Alistair Bapty, and they've kind of left Craig Houston and the Lotus in the dust. The Lotus, and they maybe not got the power, but it's got the handling, whereas the two big brawny V8s at the front, they've got the straight line speed.
I'm hoping that Mario Ferrari can overtake Jimmy Crowe so that we can have a Lotus versus Ferrari battle. That would be quite something to commentate on.
It would be, yeah. That's something you maybe thought you wouldn't do.
Yes.
It's just a spectacular looking thing, that 308, giving off real Group B tarmac rally car vibes as they come through the chicane and up the hill then towards Clark, where our leaders are already going through, with Andrew Graham leading. But Alistair Bapty looks a little bit more up for it now on this restart. He's just got the bit between his teeth trying to keep pace then with Andrew Graham, but nothing wrong with the straight line speed of that big Triumph. Wow.
Oh yes, there's a lot of horsepower there, but as he was saying earlier, Andrew Graham, when Chris was interviewing him, he's so happy with the handling of that car. It's a really fine, balanced, good handling car, and it works very, very well for him. But battle going on there between Ferrari and Scimitar, and the Ferrari is through, and we've now got a Ferrari versus Lotus battle on track. And Mario Ferrari is flying. He's straight past the Lotus there as they break for turn 1 at Duffus. And Mario Ferrari goes up in the space of 2 corners. He's gone from 5th to 3rd. And Craig Houston demoted then to 4th position in his Lotus.
Nothing wrong with the straight line speed of that Ferrari. That
tremendous
V8 engine really going well as they go through Butchers and then up through the chicane again. So it's Ferrari from Lotus from Scimitar.
Yep, that's the order at the moment. And they progress along the back straight as we see the leaders coming along towards the hairpin. Alistair Bapty quite some way behind Andrew Graham now, so Andrew Graham's qualifying pace is maintained to some extent in the race. He's lapping over a second, about a second and a third ahead of Alistair Bapty, or faster than Alistair Bapty, and that's a margin we're not used to seeing.
No, it isn't. No, you're right. Bapty just not quite in the groove today in the wet conditions. We've seen him struggle with tyre choice though as well. Remember with last race, you called it as well, where he just put a different tyre on. He just wasn't the same driver at all. And
I just wonder if that's the issue here, if he's still experimenting with tyres, or maybe he just hasn't got a good tyre for these slightly damp conditions.
Yeah, that's it. And it's amazing, different brands have different specialities of what they're good at too. And then you've got to get a tyre that fits early 1970s?
1970s MGB, yes.
Yes, not quite. It can't just pop down to your local quick fit, I don't believe.
No, there are some good historic
circles, black circles.
Yes, there are some good historic tyre suppliers, but you've got to get some specialist size. Same for the Ferrari, I would imagine. Some unusual sizes and specifications.
That's not a cheap exercise.
But the Ferrari is in a very strong 3rd position at the moment. Mario Ferrari pulling away from Craig Houston's Lotus and Jimmy Crowe's Scimitar as he comes out of the hairpin. This is one of Mario's strongest ever races, I think, and so far, touch wood and fingers crossed, the car looks like it's running beautifully.
It is. Yeah, it is looking really, really strong. But didn't do so well last time out when the car expired basically after about 2 laps, and we never saw it again all the rest of the weekend. But that's definitely been put in the rear view mirror, and coming through McIntyre's now pulling away with gusto from Craig Houston in 4th. We've seen Craig Houston on the podium many, many times here in the Scottish Classics with Edinburgh Watch Company. Back as a sponsor again, very kindly. So I don't know if we're going to get more rain, Doc, because looking at the forecast, it's the chances of rain are higher, and the Met Office has been pretty good so far, and there's a 70% chance of rain in 25 minutes time. Hopefully that comes down when we're at lunch.
Well, it could be lunchtime, yes.
Yeah. Looking forward to getting involved in that cake that we got from Motorsport. It looks fantastic.
Now, behind Mario Ferrari, there's still a bit of a battle going on between Craig Houston and Jimmy Crowe. They're both in different classes, Class B for Craig Houston, Class G for Jimmy Crowe, but they've not really separated from each other on track. The windscreen wipers are on, which would suggest there is a little bit of moisture in the air, unless it's just a spray from the tyres. But Jimmy Crowe beginning to try and explore a few options to try and get past Craig Houston.
great battle also going on between the number 11 Spearmint. Spearmint Nova, not Spearmint. Yes. What we were talking about earlier. Yes. Spearmint Nova just going past on the straight. The 205 GTI of Stephen Sadler. They've been switching positions back and forth. It seems that the 205 GTI maybe got the edge in the corners, but the little Nova has got really, really quick down the straight.
Yeah, it's a great hot hatch battle down there. Hot hatches of the 80s down in the chicane there. The Peugeot way quicker on the runs in the chicane, but yeah, you're right. The Nova's got a little edge in straight line performance.
My mum had a Nova SR. She loved it. Absolutely loved it. Yeah.
No, his cousin had one of those.
Really?
It was a great wee car.
Yeah. She drove the wheels off it.
And then most of my friends had Peugeot 205 GTIs. I couldn't afford one at the time, but most of my friends had Peugeot 205 GTIs.
Did you ever go in one?
Oh, I didn't drive one. I never got a shot one, but we had some epic road trips in them, especially when the 1.9 arrived.
Oh, I'd love to have a go in one. The values of them are going up a lot, the 205 GTIs.
Yes, there's not a lot of good unmodified ones left now, and that's the key, is getting the unmodified ones.
Yeah, then there's a premium for that. They're being chased by Nicky Dixon in one of the oldest cars in the field. It must be the Lotus Ford Cortina, car number 69, sitting in 8th overall. Good run so far. But at the front of the field, Andrew Graham is just pulling away. He's just set another best lap of the race of 101.931. That's quick in wet conditions. Yeah. Alistair Bapty is in a fairly comfortable second position, it must be said right now. Then Mario Ferrari in 3rd coming through.
Yep. And still hanging on in 4th is Craig Houston in the Lotus. Jimmy Crowe is always there or thereabouts. They've been split a little bit as they come through the traffic, but Jimmy Crowe back in line of stern position behind Craig Houston's Lotus. Craig doing a great job in both the preparation and driving that Lotus. I think it was about 2 seasons ago he made a great leap forward with that car. It always kind of rumbled around at the back, and then he did a massive winter rebuild, and it brought the whole thing up another level, and his driving came up another level with it, and he's done a fantastic job with it ever since. And here he is now sitting 4th overall and leading his Class B.
It's very close between Jimmy Crowe and Craig Houston here. It seems that the Lotus of Craig Houston's got maybe a tiny edge on the straight, and then the Scimitar of Jimmy Crowe's maybe got a tiny edge on the brakes and through the corners. It's really, really tight.
Yeah, they're both very similar cars in terms of specification, actually. They're both fiberglass body cars, similar construction and similar lightweight. The Lotus looks a bit more modern, more aerodynamic, but that won't make a massive difference between the two.
The Lotus looks, did you just say the Lotus looks aerodynamic?
More modern and aerodynamic, so the classic sort of early 70s wedge shape that Colin Chapman seemed to like. So.
I suppose everything's relative, isn't it?
Yes.
I can't say it's the prettiest Lotus ever made.
It's, the Lotus Elite of the day, that Excel was a series of 3 cars. There was the Esprit, the Excel, or Eclat as it was originally called, and the Elite. And the Elite was like an estate version of that, and that was a hideously ugly car. Lotus enthusiasts will probably disagree with me, but I thought it was hideously ugly. But that was like the coupe version, and that was a nicer looking car, I thought.
Elan for me.
Yeah.
Elan, beautiful little car.
Yes. Well, in terms of the Lotuses, yes, the original Elan was fantastic. But that Excel never quite took off in the market because it was up against the Porsche 944. That was the direct competitor, price-wise, performance-wise. And would you buy the Lotus versus the Porsche? No. Most people went for the Porsche.
No. I've had both, but the Porsche is the one to go for, I think. I'm so impartial though, Doc. So impartial. Right, so 2 laps to go then. Mario Ferrari goes to start another one in his Ferrari, which has run like a singer-sewing machine so far in this race.
You mean you stitched it up then?
I've stitched him up.
Yeah.
I've stitched him up, sorry. Now, where is our race leader coming over? He's coming around to the hairpin now, so it'll be last lap then for Andrew Graham coming up, and yet another win here in the Scottish Classic Sports and Saloon Championship. Pole position, fastest lap in the pocket, and 1 lap between him and a race victory.
Yep, he starts his final lap of the race then, and he starts that lap a good few seconds ahead of Alistair Bapty, who's just coming out the hairpin as Andrew Graham disappears down through turn 1. So it's the length of the main straight between them, which is most un-Bapty-like actually. But Alistair Bapty comes through now 16.8 seconds down on the leader. and then we've got to wait another few seconds for Mario Ferrari to arrive. But Andrew Graham, Alistair Bapty both in Class E cars, Mario Ferrari in a Class D. So Mario's going to win his class if he can last the last lap, and that'd be a great result for Mario, one of his strongest ever race performances.
That full song, that V8
Yes.
Ferrari sounds absolutely fantastic.
Yes, this would be the time to get the drive by actually, because in qualifying he was being very, very cautious.
He was,
in the wet,
that was full song going past the start-finish line there for Mario Ferrari. Through McIntyre's he goes for the final time as our race leader comes up towards the checkered flag. It's a dominant performance in the wet here at Knockhill. Andrew Graham wins in the Triumph here at Knockhill.
Yes, it's a long wait for second place, but the Peugeot versus Vauxhall Nova battle's been won by the Peugeot as he comes across the line now. That's Stephen Sadler ahead of Ian Mitchell. Nicky Dixon in, Alistair Bapty's just coming through second now, but Nicky Dixon has had a very lonely race in his Lotus Cortina, but he's got a whole load of traffic all swarming around him at the moment as he completes the last lap. Meanwhile, Mario Ferrari coming through the hairpin for the final time. The number 27 Ferrari is going to take a magnificent overall podium and a class win. That's a great result for Mario Ferrari. I don't know if he'll realise he's his highest third position, because obviously he's been on a fairly empty piece of track all the way through there, but that's a great result for Mario. Really pleased for him.
Yeah, an overall podium, and of course Chris will be able to get in there and interview a Ferrari driver for the first time in the pits and paddock. Very cool experience for him. So Craig Hewson comes home in the Lotus in fourth, the Scimitar of Jimmy Crowe in fifth. As you mentioned, the Peugeot of Stephen Sadler nudging out Ian Mitchell for sixth place, Nicky Dixon in eighth, Paul Bowers in ninth, Ian Morton in 10th, Sonny Gray was 11th, then it was Neil Mackay and Richard Cooper. Unfortunately, a non-finish for John Kinmond, who had to be recovered at the chicane, and Andrew Kinmond not taking the start, and that's a shame because his TVR had run very well. He had a good qualifying position.
It was just in the last lap of qualifying, as the checkered flag came out, he aborted his last lap and went into the pit lane, and obviously that wasn't because he'd seen the checkered flag, it was obviously because there must have been some kind of issue with the car, so that's a great shame. But so the final result then, number 78 Andrew Graham wins it from number 1 Alistair Bapty and number 27 Mario Ferrari. Class winners: Andrew Graham Class E, car 78. Mario Ferrari wins Class D in car 27. Class B was won by Craig Houston in car 91. It looks like there's a Class I there. I didn't know we had a Class I, but that's Stephen Sadler in the Peugeot 205. Class A was won by Ian Mitchell, and I think then the XR class was won by Sonny Gray, but he was the only car in the class, and I think that's all the classes taken care of.